Hi everyone, it's Lisa Mears, and I am here to share with you my design process for 10 cards that I made using the Spellbinders December 2022 card kit. I previously did an unboxing of this card kit, and I will link it here at the top right corner of this video and in the description box below if you're interested in seeing that unboxing. But to sum it up, there's cardstock, pattern paper, there's chipboard stickers, there's also ephemera, a stamp set, and more. And I will have a link to this card kit and more information on joining the Spellbinders Card Kit Club down in the description box of this YouTube video. I will also have up-close pictures of all of my cards over on my blog at lisamearsdesigns.com. So for this first card, I took a piece of the pink cardstock, and there are two pink cardstocks in this kit. There's a darker pink and a lighter pink, so I'm using the lighter pink on this card, and I cut it to 4 1/4 by 5.5 inches, and then I layered on a piece of the yellow and white pattern paper. That pattern paper I cut to 4 1/8 by 5 3/8, and now I'm just building up my card front with lots of ephemera as well as a chipboard piece. So I have lots of the flower pieces down towards the bottom, and I have a heart chipboard piece at the top. There are lots of chipboard pieces in this kit that include squares, hearts, and ovals. So I'm using the heart here today, and I love using the chipboard pieces because you can frame out different ephemera pieces, or you can frame out sentiments. You can even make shaker cards with them, although I'm not going to be making any shaker cards with you today. So I go ahead and glue down all of my flowers down towards the bottom. I am going to include one of the birds. There's also lots of bird ephemera pieces in this kit. So in addition to flowers and birds, there's also lots of hearts in this kit. I decided I want my bird to be popped up in front of the flowers, so I put some foam on the back of the bird to pop them up in front of those flowers. And then I'm also using one of the chipboard sentiments that says "You are loved" and popping another bird up on that heart. I will add this to the A2 size card base, and this kit does come with 10 A2 size card bases, which measure 4 1/4 by 5.5 inches. And that completes my first card. Moving on to my second card, I have a piece of the blue cardstock that I cut down to 4 1/4 by 5.5 inches. I'm layering on a piece of the pink flower pattern paper onto the top of that. That pattern paper is 4 1/8 by 5 3/8, and I'm going to add a chipboard heart right to the center. I'm going to take one of the larger birds and put that on the heart. I'm also going to layer up some ephemera pieces around the bird, so I'm going to pop a leaf behind it, and then I'll go ahead and glue the bird down. I'm also going to bring in some other flowers and a sentiment. My sentiment is a chipboard sentiment that says "You make my heart sing," so I'll put that straight across the heart and add a couple of the flowers at the top left-hand corner. I'll go ahead and add this card layer to an A2 size card base, and that will complete this card. For my next card, I'm taking one of the brighter blue pieces of cardstock. I cut that to 4 1/4 by 5.5 inches. And then the pink and white pattern paper is 4 1/8 by 5 3/8. So I'll layer that on top of the blue. I'm also going to be using one of the chipboard pieces here. And I also have a strip of the yellow and white pattern paper that I got from a previous card. This is just a scrap that I'm using, and that's 4 1/8 by 5/8 inch. So I'm going to layer the chipboard piece towards the top of that card, and I'm going to put some ephemera inside. That strip of paper is going to go across horizontally the bottom portion of the card. So I'm just laying everything out how I want it, and then I'll go ahead and glue everything down. So I'm going to glue the rainbow right inside of the frame. I will add one of the clouds to the top left just so that it's overlapping the rainbow just a little bit, and I'll go ahead and glue down this strip of pattern paper. Now, I don't know if you can tell, but I actually put that pattern paper down upside down because inside of all of those little squares are hearts, and all of those hearts are upside down, and I did not notice until I finished this card. So I do go in and I fix it, and you'll see me come here at the end and make that correction. But right now what I'm doing is I'm adding some scrap cardstock to the back of this bicycle, because part of that bicycle ephemera piece is going to be on top of the chipboard and part of it will be on the actual card base. Because the chipboard is thicker, the ephemera piece will not lay flat unless I add some extra cardstock layers underneath it. So that's why I added those cardstock layers there. I am going to also bring in a chipboard sticker that says together and also one that says love with the hearts, and I'm going to add this to an A2 size card base. So after I put the whole card together, I realized I need to fix the strip, so I just cut another strip the same exact size and I just layered it right on top. I couldn't pull the whole thing up because it would ruin the card. That glue that I'm using is very strong. So I just slip another one right underneath it and it works out perfectly. And then I just add that chipboard sticker right back to the top. So that will complete this card. For my next card, I'm using one of the oval chipboard pieces, and I want to have a different piece of pattern paper behind the oval. So I'm just putting my oval over top of this pattern paper and just cutting it to size. If you recall with the previous cards I created, when I used the chipboard, I just put it right directly on the pattern paper that made up the actual card front. So the paper behind the chipboard piece was the same that was on the card front. So here it's going to be a little bit different. So I just had to cut that down to size. And then I'm going to place this into my Misti. So I'm just going to stamp a sentiment here. So I like to be able to use these frames to frame out a sentiment, which is what I'm going to do here. So I'm just positioning it so that I have that sentiment centered, and then I'm going to remove the chipboard piece and hold down that cardstock with my magnets, and then I'll go ahead and add ink and stamp it down. So my sentiment says the best times are with you. And I'll just make sure I get a really nice impression, and then I will go ahead and put that chipboard oval right on top of my pattern paper. So the chipboard is actually a sticker, so you saw me pull back the film. It is sticky, but I'm going to go ahead and just put some glue on the back just to make sure it's completely secure. So I have a piece of green cardstock I cut down to 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 inches, and then that flower paper is 4 1/8 by 5 3/8. So I'll layer those two together, and then I'll go ahead and add that to my A2 size card base. And now I'm going to go ahead and add my oval right to the center, and then I'll add a few floral pieces as well as a butterfly. And then I also used some of the sequins that came in the kit and added 3 to the inside of the oval. And that completes that card. For my next card, I'm using the blue oval shape, and I already cut down a piece of pattern paper using the same method that I did in the previous card. I'm going to go ahead and glue that pattern paper to the back of my oval. I want to make sure that all of those X's are straight. So I'm just taking a few seconds longer just to make sure I have all of those X's lined up straight on that oval. I had a little bit of pattern paper extending beyond the edges, so I do trim that off. And then as for my layers, I have the lock and key piece of pattern paper that I cut to 3 5/8 by 4 5/8, and I'm adding that to the blue and pink bird pattern paper, and that measures 4 1/8 by 5 3/8. The oval will go right in the center, and then I'll add that to the A2 size card base. I'm going to arrange my ephemera pieces, so I'll have 2 birdhouses at a diagonal from each other. I'm also going to have a bird on each of the birdhouses and some flowers on each of those birdhouses. So I'm going to go ahead and start gluing them down. As you can see, that some of those ephemera pieces are extending off the edges of that chipboard. So just like I did with a previous card, I'm just putting a little bit of scrap paper underneath just to try to get that to lay flat. So if that bothers you because it's not laying flat, just take some scrap paper, cut it up to size, and then just glue it to the back. So then I'll add the bird there, and I'm going to do the same thing with the ephemera pieces on the bottom right. So I'm going to tuck in a flower, add the birdhouse. I'm also going to add the bird, and then I'll go ahead and cut down some scraps, and I'll add a little piece of scrap cardstock underneath that larger birdhouse in the bottom right corner of the oval. And then I'm just going to make sure I have glue underneath that scrap cardstock. So I'm just going in and putting some glue underneath and pressing that down to the card front. I'm adding a chipboard banner piece. This is also a sticker. It says "Just the Greatest," and I'm also going to bring in some gold gems and add them to the front of the card. And that's going to complete this card. For my next card, I have this piece of pink flower paper that I cut to 5 3/8 by 3/4 inches, and I'm adding that to a piece of the pattern paper. Now that pattern paper, it's a very light gray and white pattern, and it has words on it such as "Just the Best," "Grateful for You," and "In My Heart." So I know you can barely see that, but it does have those words in white. So that pattern paper I cut down to 5 3/8 by 4 1/8. Both of those pieces of pattern paper are added to a piece of solid pink cardstock that's 5.5 inches by 4 1/4. So you can see that I'm adding some flower ephemera pieces as well as the snail. And I'm going to go ahead and glue those down to my card. I'm also taking the "Love You" sentiment and adding it to the call out. So I'm just going to cover up those hearts, add the sentiment, and add a larger heart and overlap that call out. And I will add that to the card. So that will be my sentiment for my card, the "Love You." I will add that layer to the A2 size card base. And then I'll add a few of the gold gems to complete this card. For my next card, I have a piece of the gold mirror cardstock that I cut to 4 1/4 by 5.5 inches, which I cut the center out of that using a rectangle die just so that I can save that cardstock. I'm adding the gold to the card base, and it will fit perfectly. There will be no white showing on the edges. And then I have a piece of the pattern paper that I cut to 4 1/8 by 5 3/8, and I'll layer that right over the top. I love having the gold peeking out from the pattern paper. Another thing that I love about these Spellbinders card kits is that they not only include the gold mirror cardstock in almost every kit, but a lot of the ephemera pieces have gold accents on them as well as the pattern paper. And it always complements the gold mirror cardstock so well. So as you can see, this card is going to have lots of hearts lined up on the left side of the card in a vertical position. So once I have everything layered where I want it, I'll go ahead and glue them down. I'm also going to include the heart with the arrow, and I'm also going to include the word "love." That is a chipboard sticker, and it has pink on the top of the letters and the gold accent on the bottom of the letters. So that's going to complete this card. Moving on to my next card, I have another chipboard piece. This chipboard piece has the word "loved" in the gold accent. I stuck the wood grain paper to the back, and I'm just trimming it out with my scissors so that I can have a different piece of pattern paper behind this chipboard frame. I'm going to put some ephemera inside, starting out with the bird's nest, so I'll go ahead and glue that to the center. I'm also going to have the birds sitting on the nest, so I'll go ahead and glue that down. And I'm also going to bring in a few of my flower ephemera pieces. So there are some pink flowers on the right side that's already hooked to that ephemera, so I want to go ahead and attach another one just to balance it a little bit, and then also fill in some of the gaps there underneath one of the birds. Here I am just taking a piece of scrap paper and I'm just putting it on the back of this small flower piece and adding it to this open space just to make sure that it lays flat. And next I'm going to put my card layers together. So I have a piece of pink flower pattern paper that I cut down to 5 1/4 by 4 inches. And then the pink diamond shape pattern paper is 5 1/4 by 2. So the diamond shape is added to the bottom of the flower paper, and then I have a gold strip that I cut to 5 1/4 by 1/8, and I'm just adding that horizontally across that pattern paper where those pattern papers intersect. I also have another piece of gold Mara cardstock that I cut to 5 3/8 by 4 1/8. I cut the center out of it to save the center. And I added the gold mirror cardstock directly to the white card base, and then I'm adding the pattern papers right to the top. I'll add my chipboard frame on the left side of that card. I'm going to add a piece of scrap cardstock underneath some of those flowers just to make sure it adheres flat to the card. And then I stamped out a sentiment with black ink onto white cardstock, and it says, "You make my heart sing." That's from the stamp set that's included in this card kit. And I'm also adding some of the music notes on the chipboard piece, so right above the birds. Just stamping those out in black ink. I'm going to add a couple of gold gems just to highlight the word sing, so one on the left and one on the right of the word, and that will complete this card. For my next card, I have several layers of pattern paper. I'm going to start out with the yellow and white strip, and that's 1 7/8 by 5 3/8. I'm adding that to the left side of the heart pattern paper that I cut to 4 1/8 by 5 3/8. And then I have another strip of pink flower pattern paper that I cut down to 1 inch by 5 3/8 inch, and I add that right to the center of the yellow strip. So now I'm going to add that entire layer of pattern paper onto some pink cardstock. The pink cardstock is 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 inches. And then I have two hearts. I used my Scrapbookcom heart-shaped nesting dies to die cut some pattern paper. I have one of the gray pieces of pattern paper with the large heart. And then after I add the large heart to my card layer, I'm going to add this flower ephemera piece. That piece will be layered between the two hearts. So after I add the flower, I'll add the second heart right to the top. And then I'm going to arrange some more ephemera pieces. I have the mailbox, I have the letter, and I also have the lock and key, and those will be arranged inside of the heart. I'm going to add a flower to the top right, and I'm also adding one of the sentiment puffy stickers that says Forever You. And then I'll add that entire layer to my A2 size card base, and I will add a few of the gold gems right to the front of the heart. Now those gold gems are from my stash. They are not included in the card kit. That will complete this card. For this card, I cut the pink diamond paper to 3 3/8 by 4 5/8. I'm going to layer that right in the center of the blue floral pattern paper, and that measures 4 1/8 by 5 3/8. And then I'm going to add some of my floral ephemera pieces to my card. So I'll add the large one, and then I'll add a couple of these small ones at the top and bottom. Now, by the way, I want to remind you all that I do have card measurements and up-close pictures of all of these cards on my blog at Lisa Mears Design. So if you do want to replicate any of these cards, you can head over there and take a look at that. Okay, so after I have the floral pieces, I'm taking out this chipboard label sticker, and I'm going to add it to the bottom right hand corner, and then I'm going to take one of the puffy stickers and I'm going to add it right to the center. So this puffy sticker says thank you, so I'll just center that up, And then I'm going to add a butterfly, and I did put some foam on the back of that butterfly to pop it up on top of those flowers. I'll add this to an A2 size card base, and then I'm going to add some gold gems to the front of this card. So I would love for you to leave me a comment and let me know which card was your favorite. And as a reminder, if you're interested in joining any of the Spellbinders clubs, there will be links down in the description box below. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and be sure to click that subscribe button and turn on your bell notifications so that you'll be notified every time I release a new video. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. Have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.